I knew my husband was alive the morning I watched him die on the news. That is not something a wife is supposed to say. A wife is supposed to scream, fall apart, and hold a tissue to her mouth, while the sheriff tells her there was nothing they could do. A wife is supposed to believe the burnt truck, the wedding ring, the blackened wallet, and the neat little sentence everyone kept repeating. Tragic accident. But when the camera zoomed in on the wreckage beside the rain-soaked highway outside Willow Creek, Tennessee, I did not cry. I saw the driver's side mirror hanging by one wire. I saw the dent in the tailgate. And I knew. That was not Daniel's truck. It looked like his truck. Same black Ford. Same silver toolbox in the bed. Same sticker from a fishing shop in Memphis. But the mirror was wrong. Daniel had cracked his mirror 6 months earlier when he backed into the mailbox, and I had begged him to fix it. He never did. He always said, "It still shows me what's behind me." The mirror on the wreck was brand new. That was when my grief went quiet. Not gone. Quiet. It sank into me like a knife under cold water. The reporter kept talking about my husband, Daniel Price, local contractor, respected businessman, loving husband. Behind her, flames still lifted from the ditch. Men in yellow jackets moved slowly through the smoke. Somewhere in the house, our grandfather clock clicked toward 7 in the morning. I stood in my kitchen wearing my robe, holding a mug of coffee I had not tasted. And I whispered, "You wanted me to see this." That was the first honest thing I had said all day. Daniel and I had been married for 11 years. To people in town, we looked steady. Not happy exactly, but steady. We had a white house with green shutters on Foster Road, 2 rocking chairs on the porch, and a Sunday routine that made old ladies at church smile. He kissed my cheek in public. He carried heavy bags. He sent flowers on our anniversary, always red roses, always with a card that sounded like a man who had copied the words from the internet. To everyone else, Daniel was charming. To me, he was weather. You learned to read him. You learned when to speak, when to stay quiet, when to make dinner early, when to pretend you did not notice lipstick on a collar or cash missing from an account. Daniel never hit me. He did not have to. He used silence like a locked door. He used money like a leash. He could make a room feel colder just by setting his keys on the counter. By the time he died, or pretended to die, I had become very good at surviving him. That morning, the sheriff came at 8:30. Sheriff Lyle Mason had known me since I was 19. When I worked afternoons at the county library and still believed nice men stayed nice forever. He stood on my porch with rain dripping from his hat and pity already resting on his face. "Evelyn," he said softly. I opened the door before he could knock. "I saw it," I said. He blinked. "I'm sorry." I nodded because that was what a widow was supposed to do. He came inside and sat at my kitchen table. The whole scene felt rehearsed. His hat in his hands. My coffee cooling by the sink. The television still low in the corner. He told me the truck had gone off Route 19 just after midnight. It had hit a guardrail, rolled, and caught fire. The body was too badly burned for a visual identification, but they had found Daniel's wedding ring, his wallet, and his work phone. "Dental records will make it official," he said. But we're confident. I looked at the thin pale line on my finger, where my own ring had been until Daniel made me. Put it back on for a church dinner 3 nights earlier. "Anyone else hurt?" I asked. "Any witnesses?" A trucker called it in after seeing smoke. "Did the driver try to brake?" Sheriff Mason studied me. "Evelyn, you don't need to think about those details right now." That was the second sentence that changed everything. Because people only tell you not to think about details when details can hurt somebody. I did not argue. I folded my hands in my lap. I made my face soft. I let him explain arrangements, signatures, the medical examiner, the insurance company. I thanked him. I even cried once, carefully, when he said, "He loved you in his way." I cried because I almost laughed. After he left, I locked the door. Then I walked to Daniel's office. Now he was dead, so I opened every drawer. At first, I found what I expected. Receipts, blueprints, old invoices, a bottle of bourbon behind a stack of folders, a birthday card from a woman named Claire, signed with a heart. None of it surprised me. Then I found the envelope taped under the bottom drawer. It was thick, cream-colored, and sealed with no writing on the front. Daniel was not a man who hid things in clever places. He hid them in obvious places because he believed no one had the courage to look. Inside the envelope was a bank statement from Gulf Star Credit Union in Mobile, Alabama. Name: balance $492,913.77. My hands went cold. We were behind on property taxes. He had told me the business was struggling. He had made me sell my mother's jewelry 2 months earlier to keep payroll moving. He had watched me wrap her pearls in tissue paper and said, "Don't be dramatic. Dead people don't need necklaces." Almost $500,000 sat in Alabama. I kept searching. Behind the statement were 2 passports. One was Daniel's. The other had his picture but a different name. Daniel Reeves. Same eyes, same smile. Same little scar above his right eyebrow from a fight he always claimed he won. At the bottom of the envelope was a folded note written on plain yellow paper. "Evelyn, don't embarrass yourself trying to understand. Take the insurance and move on. You were always better at being sad than being smart." There was no signature. There did not need to be. I read it twice, then a third time. I waited for the anger to come hot, like fire. Instead, it came clean. For the first time in years, I felt awake. Daniel had not just faked his death. He had left me a note because he wanted me to know. He wanted me to sit in that house, wearing widow black, collecting insurance money, and wondering where he had gone. He wanted his last gift to be humiliation. That was his mistake. A cruel man always thinks cruelty is power. He forgets that pain can teach a quiet woman how to wait. I did not call the sheriff. Not yet. I did not call the insurance company. I did not call my sister, May, though my fingers hovered over her name for a long time. May lived in Knoxville and had begged me to leave Daniel for years. I could hear her voice already. "I told you. I told you. I told you." I was not ready to be told anything. I took photos of every document. I put everything back exactly where I found it. Then I made myself breakfast. 2 eggs, 1 piece of toast, black coffee. I sat at the kitchen table and ate slowly while rain tapped the windows. By noon, the casseroles started arriving. Women from church, neighbors, Daniel's employees, people with red eyes and covered dishes. They hugged me, patted my back, told me to call if I needed anything. I smiled like a woman in shock. It was not difficult. I was in shock. Just not the kind they thought. Claire came at 4. That night, I found her number in Daniel's old work phone. It had survived the crash because it had not been in the crash. The sheriff's office had given me a bag of Daniel's belongings from the wreck, sealed and smelling faintly of smoke. His work phone inside was cracked and burned. But Daniel had another phone, the one he kept in the false bottom of his golf bag. I had known about it for 2 years. I had never touched it because touching it would have forced me to decide something. Now I decided. The phone opened with Daniel's birthday. Men like Daniel think women are the foolish ones. There were messages from Claire, hundreds of them. Some were sweet. Some were ugly. Some were business. The newest one had come at 11:47, the night before the crash. It said, "Is it done?" Daniel had replied, "Almost. By sunrise, Evelyn becomes rich and useless. We'll be in Biloxi by Friday." Claire answered, "What about Mason?" Daniel paid and handled. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the name Mason. Sheriff Lyle Mason, the man who told me not to think about details. The room tilted. For a minute, I could not hear anything except my own heartbeat. Daniel had not acted alone. Claire knew. Sheriff Mason knew. Maybe others knew. Maybe the whole story was already wrapped in official paper, tied with a ribbon, and filed away as an accident before the fire had even cooled. I wanted to run to May then. I wanted to pack a bag and drive until my town became a bad memory in the rearview mirror. Instead, I plugged Daniel's secret phone into my laptop and copied everything. Every message, every photo, every call log, every note. My hands shook, but I did it. By sunrise, I had hidden one copy in the attic, one in my car's spare tire well, and one in a cereal box Daniel would have never touched because it said high fiber. Then I put on a black dress and planned my husband's funeral. A closed casket makes people imagine what they need to imagine. The funeral home director, Mr. Hensley, told me gently that a viewing would not be possible. I lowered my eyes and said I understood. Daniel's mother sobbed into a handkerchief. His older brother, Ray, squeezed my shoulder with fingers that smelled like cigarettes and motor oil. Claire sat 3 rows back wearing black gloves. Sheriff Mason stood near the doors. He did not look at me once. The pastor talked about Daniel's work ethic, his generosity, his love for community. I listened to every lie and counted them like steps. The church was packed. Contractors, bankers, church ladies, men from the Rotary Club, women who whispered behind bulletins. I stood when I was supposed to stand. I bowed my head when I was supposed to pray. When the pastor invited me to speak, a small wave of panic moved through the room. I stayed seated. I was saving my voice for the truth. That night, somebody broke into my house. They came through the back door at 1:13 in the morning. I know the time because the security camera Daniel, installed to watch me, captured the shadow crossing the patio. I was asleep on the couch with a lamp on and a baseball bat under the blanket. Grief does not make you helpless. Fear keeps you organized. The floor creaked near the kitchen. I opened my eyes. The person moved slowly, like they knew the house. They did not go for jewelry. They did not go for the television. They went straight to Daniel's office. I waited until I heard the desk drawer open. Then I turned on every light in the house, from the smart switch on my phone. Ray Price stood frozen behind Daniel's desk with the envelope in his hand. His mouth fell open. Mine did not. "Put it down," I said. "Evelyn, this isn't what it looks like. It looks like burglary. I have a key." "Not anymore." He looked at the bat in my hand. "You don't understand." "Then help me." Ray sat in Daniel's leather chair with both hands over his face. For the first time, he looked older than his 46 years. The tough older brother, the man who could fix anything, looked broken by something he had helped build. "He came to me 3 months ago," Ray said. "Said he needed a vehicle. Same model as his. Said it was for insurance on a job. I didn't ask enough questions." "Who was in the truck?" Ray flinched. "That's what I don't know. I swear to God, Evelyn, I don't know. He told me nobody would get hurt. A body burned in that truck." He started crying then. Quiet, ashamed tears. Was Mason involved? Ray wiped his face. "Mason owes Daniel money. Gambling, I think. Daniel had him by the throat. And Claire. She thought he loved her." Ray laughed once, without humor. "Maybe he did, as much as Daniel could love anybody. But she wasn't the plan. She was transportation." "What does that mean?" Ray looked toward the dark window. He was going to leave with someone else. The words landed softly, but they cracked the whole story open. "Who?" Ray shook his head. "I don't know her name. I only heard him say Savannah, maybe the city, maybe the woman. I believed him. Not because Ray was good, because he was terrified. And fear has a plain sound when it tells the truth. Why come here tonight? I asked. Daniel called me. The room became very still. When? 2 hours ago. From a blocked number. He said you had something that belonged to him. He said if I didn't get it back, he'd make sure I went down for the truck. My husband, dead 2 days, was still giving orders. I almost admired the arrogance. Almost. I made Ray write everything down. Names. Dates. The vehicle. The storage lot where he had delivered it. The number Daniel used when he called. Then I made him sign it. I recorded him while he did, with the phone face down on the bookshelf. When he finished, he said, "What are you going to do?" I looked at the envelope on the desk. I'm going to become the widow he invented. For the next week, I performed grief like a woman on a stage. I began with the Alabama account. Daniel had kept paper statements, but he had also saved passwords in a note app under fake names. Gulf Star was listed as boat parts. I logged in from a computer at the library, wearing reading glasses and a hat. The account showed transfers from Daniel's company into a shell business called Southern Pine Materials. For years, he had been paying himself through a fake supplier while telling everyone the business was barely alive. One transfer stood out. $50,000. Sent 2 days before the crash to a marina in Biloxi. The memo said slip rental, 6 months. Biloxi. Claire's message had said they would be there by Friday. Maybe she had not been completely useless after all. I drove to Biloxi the next morning. I told everyone I was visiting my sister. I packed lightly, left the porch light on, and placed one of Daniel's old boots near the back door, so any visitor would think someone had come inside already. I took the interstate south with a thermos of coffee and a printed photo of my dead husband on the passenger seat. The Biloxi marina smelled like salt, diesel, and money. White boats rocked in neat rows. Men in sunglasses laughed near coolers. A woman walked a tiny dog along the dock, as if no one had ever died in the world. I found the office and asked for slip B17. The clerk, a sunburned man named Toby, looked at me over his computer. "You family?" "I'm Mrs. Reeves," I said. The fake name tasted strange, but not as strange as the truth. Toby checked the screen. He said you might come. Haven't seen him since he paid. My heart punched once. When was that? Last week. Tall guy. Dark hair. Tennessee plates on a rental car. As he alone. Toby grinned. "No, Mom." I held my breath. "Pretty redhead," he said. "Not friendly." "Not Claire." I showed him Daniel's photo. "This man. That's him." "Do you know the boat?" "Sure. Blue Heron. Older cabin cruiser. He bought it cash through a broker. Is it here?" Toby turned and pointed through the window. Slip B17 was empty. When did it leave? Friday morning. The Claire had been right about Friday. She just had not known she was being left behind. I thanked Toby and walked back to my car with my legs shaking. Daniel was alive. He had money, a fake name, a boat, and a red-headed woman who was not his grieving girlfriend. He was not hiding in the mountains or across the country. He was moving along the Gulf like a man who believed distance could wash away a life. But every escape leaves a wake. At a coffee shop near the beach, I opened Daniel's secret phone again. I searched for Savannah, Reedhead, boat, Reeves, Blue Heron. Nothing. Then I checked deleted photos. People think deleted means gone. It usually means waiting. There she was. A red-headed woman in a green dress, sitting beside Daniel at a bar. Her face was turned away, but a neon sign behind them said the Lucky Pelican. In the corner of the photo, reflected in a mirror, I could see her smile. I searched the bar online. It was in Fairhope, Alabama. I drove there that evening. The bartender recognized Savannah from the photo. She told me Savannah Cole had a brother who ran quiet charters out of Orange Beach, and if Daniel was trying to leave the country by water, that was where I should look. Then she looked me in the eye and said, "Don't go alone." I almost did. Old habits are hard to kill. When you live with a controlling man long enough, you start believing privacy is safety. You hide your pain. You hide your fear. You hide your plans. But silence had served Daniel longer than it had served me. So I called May. She answered on the first ring. "Evie." For a second, I could not speak. Then I said, "Daniel is alive." There was a pause. Not disbelief, calculation. May had always been faster than me at accepting ugly truths. "Where are you?" she asked. "Alabama. I'm coming." "You don't even know where." "I'll figure it out on the way." By morning, May had found us a lawyer, Anita Rhodes, a federal criminal attorney in Mobile. She listened to everything and said, "Do not go to your sheriff again. If local law is dirty, we go around it." "How?" I asked. With patience. It had once meant waiting for Daniel's mood to pass. Now it meant building a cage strong enough to hold him. Anita contacted a federal agent she trusted. His name was Marcus Bell, and he wore plain suits, spoke softly, and had the tired eyes of a man who had heard too many lies to enjoy new ones. We gave him copies of everything. He asked questions for 3 hours. Dates, times, amounts, passwords, places. When he asked if I would be willing to help confirm Daniel's location, May said, "Absolutely not." I said. Agent Bell looked at me. "Mrs. Price, helping does not mean playing hero." "I'm not a hero." "Good." "I'm evidence he underestimated." For the first time, Anita smiled. The plan was simple, which made it frightening. We would let Daniel think he still had control. Ray would call him back from my house, using the number Daniel had used to threaten him. Ray would say he found the envelope and phone records, but I had become suspicious. He would say he could get me to meet him at the Gulf if Daniel wanted to scare me into silence or make me sign papers. Daniel's ego would do the rest. I hated that part of the plan because it depended on knowing my husband well. It worked by lunch. Ray called from my kitchen, while Agent Bell's team listened from another room. I sat at the table with both hands wrapped around a glass of water. Sheriff Mason was not there. No local deputies were there. For the first time since the news report, the room felt like mine. Ray's voice shook as the call connected. "Dan." Silence. Then my husband's voice came through the speaker. "Well, look who finally decided family matters." My body went cold all the way through. A dead man's voice is not ghostly when you know he chose to be dead. It is just disgusting. Ray swallowed. The envelope. And the phone. A pause. "Did she see?" Daniel asked. "Some. She's asking questions." Daniel sighed like I was a problem with a simple repair. Evelyn always asks the wrong questions too late. I stared at the table until the wood blurred. Ray said, "What do you want me to do?" "Bring her to Fairhope. Tomorrow night. Tell her you found something that proves I'm alive. She'll come." She always wanted a grand ending. May grabbed my shoulder so hard it hurt. Bell nodded. Bell nodded. "Then what?" Ray asked. "Then I talked to my wife." "Why?" Daniel laughed softly. "Because she needs to understand what happens if she opens her mouth." There it was. The real Daniel. Not the church man. Not the contractor. Not the charming husband with red roses. The man under the floorboards. Agent Bell ended the signal trace when the call disconnected. "Orange Beach area," he said. "We're narrowing it down." I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt grief again. The meeting happened the next night, at a closed seafood restaurant on the edge of Fairhope Bay. It had been damaged in a storm and never reopened. The sign hung crooked. The parking lot was cracked. Weeds pushed through the asphalt. Beyond it, black water moved under a moonless sky. Agent Bell's team was hidden before I arrived. May was not allowed near the site, which made her furious enough to threaten 3 federal employees. Anita stayed with her and promised to call me reckless in court if I did anything stupid. I wore a wire under my blouse. I also wore my wedding ring, not because I belonged to Daniel, because I wanted him to see the circle he thought was a leash had become a witness. Ray drove me there. His hands trembled on the steering wheel. "I'm sorry," he said as we pulled in. "You should be. I know. You can still do the right thing." He looked at me. "Is that enough?" "No. But it is a start." I got out of the car. The Bay air smelled like mud and salt. My heels clicked on broken pavement. Somewhere far away, a dog barked. I walked toward the restaurant porch, every step slow. Daniel stepped from the shadows. Alive. Clean-shaven. Wearing a linen shirt I had never seen, and the same smug expression I had seen 1,000 times across our dinner table. For one wild second, my heart tried to recognize him as my husband. Then my mind corrected it. "This was the man who had buried a body in his name and left me to stand over it," he said. "You look tired. You look dead." His smile thinned, still dramatic, still breathing. He walked closer. I made myself stay still. "You should have taken the insurance," he said. "You could have had a comfortable life." "Whose body was in the truck?" Daniel looked bored. "You don't want to know?" "Yes, I do." "No. You want to feel clean. There's a difference." "Tell me." He glanced toward Ray's car, then back at me. "A drifter. Overdosed behind one of my job sites. Nobody came looking for him." My stomach turned. "You burned him." "I used what was already wasted." For a moment, I forgot about the wire. I forgot about Agent Bell. I forgot about the plan. All I could see was some unknown man, somebody's son, somebody with a name Daniel had decided did not matter. Daniel saw my face and laughed. "Oh, Evelyn. Don't start caring about strangers. It's exhausting." That laugh saved me. It reminded me why I was there. "Where is Savannah?" I asked. His eyes sharpened. "Jealous?" "No. Curious how many women you lied to before breakfast." His hand moved fast. He grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise. "Listen to me," he hissed. "You are going to go home. You are going to collect the insurance. You are going to sign whatever papers Ray brings you. And you are going to remember that if I can disappear once, I can come back whenever I want." There it was. Clear. On the wire. I looked down at his hand. For 11 years I had been afraid of that hand. Not tonight. "No," I said. He blinked. It was such a small word, but it landed like a slap. "What?" "No." His grip tightened. "You don't get to say no to me." I looked straight into his eyes. "Daniel," I said no years ago. "You just weren't listening." Lights exploded across the parking lot. Federal agents came from everywhere, shouting his name, ordering him to step back, to show his hands, to get on the ground. Daniel released me and turned shocked, furious, betrayed by the fact that the world had not stayed arranged for his convenience. For 1 second, I thought he would run. He did not. Men like Daniel only run when they believe nobody sees them. Agent Bell cuffed him beside a rusted crab trap. Daniel looked at me as they read him his rights. "You did this," he said. I touched the wedding ring on my finger. "No," I said. "You did. I just finally took notes." That should have been the ending. It was not. The body in the truck was identified as Thomas Reed, a veteran from Kentucky whose sister had been searching for him for months. Daniel had called him nobody. The paperwork gave him back his name. Daniel's trial began the following spring in federal court in Mobile. He looked smaller in a suit that did not belong to him. Still handsome, still polished, still able to smile at strangers like they were lucky to be noticed. But I knew him too well. His jaw tightened when evidence appeared on screens. His fingers tapped when witnesses spoke. His eyes searched the room for someone to control and found no one willing. When I testified, his lawyer tried to make me look bitter. "Mrs. Price," he said, pacing gently in front of the jury. "Isn't it true your marriage was troubled?" "Yes." "Isn't it true you resented your husband?" "Yes." He paused, surprised. "And isn't it true you wanted revenge?" I looked at Daniel. Then I looked at the jury. "Yes," I said, "but not the kind he understands." The lawyer tilted his head. "What kind of revenge did you want?" "The kind where the truth gets a courtroom. The dead get their names back, and the living stop being afraid." The courtroom went very quiet. Daniel stared at the table. For once, he had no correction. The jury found him guilty on every major count: insurance fraud, wire fraud, identity fraud, obstruction, conspiracy, abuse of a corpse later. The state brought more charges connected to Thomas Reed. By then, Daniel's smile had worn thin at the edges. When the judge sentenced him, he turned once to look at me. I expected hatred. I saw confusion. He still did not understand how I had become someone he could not move. After the sentencing, reporters waited outside the courthouse. Microphones pushed toward my face. Cameras flashed. Everyone wanted a quote from the widow who was not a widow, the wife who trapped her husband, the quiet woman who brought down a sheriff and a fraud ring. I could have said many things. I could have said Daniel was evil. I could have said I was brave. I could have said justice had been served. Instead, I said, Thomas Reed mattered. Then I walked away. Months later, I met Thomas's sister, Linda, at a diner off the highway. She brought a photo of him smiling beside a lake with a fish too small to brag about. We talked about his bad jokes, his army years, and the Christmas calls he made even when he had no address. Before we left, she pressed the photo into my hand and said, "You helped us bury my brother under his own name." I cried then, not the careful widow tears I had performed for Willow Creek. Real ones. The kind that come when your body finally believes the danger has passed. Years have gone by now. Daniel is still alive, which is the punishment he feared most. Alive in a cell. Alive with his name attached to every ugly thing he did. Alive without a room to command, a woman to silence, or a mirror angled only toward what was behind him. Claire wrote me once from prison. The letter was full of excuses dressed as apologies. I read it, folded it, and threw it away. Sheriff Mason never wrote. Ray sends a Christmas card every year with no message, only his name. I keep them in a drawer. Not because I forgive him completely, but because I believe people should have to sit with their own handwriting. As for me, I live simply. I work. I walk Moses by the river. I drink coffee on my porch. I answer the phone when May calls, which is often. Some nights, I still wake up at 1:13 in the morning, listening for a floorboard. The past does not leave just because the court says the case is closed. But the house is quiet. The doors are locked because I choose to lock them. The money Daniel hid was seized, fought over, and eventually divided through court orders, restitution, and legal fees. I received enough to start over, but not enough to pretend money fixes what fear breaks. The insurance never paid out, of course. I was grateful. I did not want a dead man's lie funding my life. What I wanted was my name back. For years, I had been Mrs. Daniel Price. The wife. The quiet one. The woman who smiled in church and made excuses for the weather inside her home. Now I am Evelyn. Just Evelyn. And if there is one thing I learned, it is this. Revenge is not always a scream. Sometimes revenge is a folder of copied records. Sometimes it is a calm voice on a witness stand. Sometimes it is saying no so clearly that the man who built his life on your silence finally hears you. Daniel thought he could bury a stranger, erase himself, and leave me standing in the ashes with a note calling me stupid. But ashes remember what burned, so did I. And in the end, my husband did not die in that truck, his lie did.